3. Ukrainians and Russians are one nation. Kyivan Rus was expanding since 9th century by Viking dynasty of Rurik. It united most of the Slavonic tribes on the territory of modern Ukraine, Belarus, and Russia. Kyiv was considered as a mother of all Rus cities and had almost sacred status. In 13th century, Rus fell during the Mongol invasion. But before Mongol invasion, something dreadful happened that never happened before in Kyivan Rus. The rulers of Rus were supposed to rule from Kyiv, who was considered the mother of all Rus cities. Andrey Bogolubski was the son of Yuri Dolgoruki and Kipchak or Turkish princes. He grew up on newly colonized lands of Suzdal. As Ukrainian historian Mikhail HRUSHEVSKOHO stated, Yuri Monomachovich belonged to old princes. He wanted to invade Kyiv and reign there all his life. But then came his son Andrey. He grew up in Povolzhia, and Rus Ukraine was alien and unattractive to him. In 1169, during another fight for Kyivan throne, Prince Andrey Bogolubski, who is considered saint in Russia, attacked and destroyed Kyiv, looted its cathedral, churches, and monasteries, and took Kyivans into slavery. As Russian historian Lev Gumilov stated, Bogolubski gave order to loot Kyiv for 3 days. It was a custom not to touch Rus cities, but loot only foreign ones. For Bogolubski and his allies, Kyiv was alien, like some Polish or German castle. By doing so, Andrew destroyed the significance of Kyiv and basically made his city, Vladimir, the new capital. He even built golden gates and a Dormition Cathedral similar to Kyivan Golden Gates and St. Sophia Cathedral. After the fall of Kyivan Rus in 13th century, it basically split into two political entities. As HRUSHEVSKOHO stated, Kyivan period transferred into Galician-Volhynian in 12th century, then into Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. In 14th-16th centuries, Vladimir Muscovite state was not the heir of Kyivan Rus. It grew on its own root, while it could be compared to a Gallic province of Roman Empire. Interestingly enough, Russian historians also support this statement. The most known of them is Vasily Kluchevsky. Velikoros comes to the history scene in the face of Andrey Bogolubski. So for centuries, propaganda claimed that Russians, Ukrainians, and Belarusians are one nation because they are the heirs of Kyivan Rus, which ceased to exist in 13th century. But isn't it the same as saying like Italians, Germans, and French are one nation because they were part of Holy Roman Empire? 4. And this moves us to the next myth, Velikoros or the Big Brother. After Kyiv fell to Mongol invaders in 1240, Kyivan Rus finally split into two entities, Galicia-Volyn and Vladimir-Suzdal principalities. Both were vassals of Mongol Khans. But Galician king Danilo was looking for a way out. He made contacts with Holy See and received the crown of Rex Rutenorum from Pope Innocent IV. Moreover, Holy Father wrote a bull calling for a crusade of Christian rulers against Mongols in 1253. After the Great Schism in Christianity and the sack of Constantinople in 1204, during the Fourth Crusade, Constantinople Patriarch didn't like these political contacts and demanded that the new metropolitan would move to Vladimir along with his title of Metropolitan of Kyiv and all Rus. As a compensation, Constantinople allowed Galicians to create their own metropolia in 1303 that was called Metropolitanate of Little Rus. As historian Sergei Plokhy stated, the notion of Little Rus, which some scholars believe the Greeks to have understood the inner or closer Rus, was born. So the term Great Rus and Small Rus is similar to the term Great Britain, used by King James I, who wanted to show that he is the king of the whole island and not the Roman Britain. So basically, Great Rus were the territories newly colonized by the original Rus. But ideologues of Russian Empire took this term to show that their superior to Ukrainians. The communists took it even further. In 1936, USSR propagandists coined the term Big Brother, referring to Russians and of course considering Ukrainians and Belarusians as smaller brothers. And this leads us to the main question, the myth of Russia itself. Actually, Russia was known as Moscovia up until 18th century, when Peter I began reforming and rebranding his own country. Brilliant bishop Teofan Prokopovich, who grew up in Kyiv, turned to Catholicism and studied in Rome under Jesuits, helped Peter the Great to rebrand his Moscovia. After coming home from Rome, Prokopovich turned back to Orthodoxy and became a monk and later bishop. He was well educated and smart. He was the one who proposed the new name Russian Empire to Peter I, using the heritage of Kyivan Rus. On October 22, 1721, Peter I proclaimed himself the Emperor of Russian Empire. He turned his backward state into a new geopolitical entity by reforming the army, administration, and even Orthodox Church. Karl Marx wrote, "The bloody mire of Mongolian slavery, not the rude glory of the Norman epoch, forms the cradle of Moscovia, and modern Russia is but a metamorphosis of Moscovia. The Tatar yoke lasted from 1237 to 1462, more than 2 centuries, a yoke not only crushing, but dishonoring and withering the very soul of the people that fell its prey. From the very outset, Peter the Great broke through all the traditions of Slavonic race. Traditional limits of the Muscovite policy could be superseded and merged into that bold synthesis which, blending the crouching method of Mongol slave with the world-conquering tendencies of the Mongol masters, forms the lifespring of modern Russian diplomacy." Now, I'm opposed to Marxism and the ideas of Karl Marx, but with his presentation of Russia, I couldn't agree more. By the way, The Secrets of Diplomatic History by Karl Marx was never published in communist USSR up until 1989. Since the name Rus was monopolized by Russian Empire, it was used as a tool to colonize Ukraine, Belarus, and other nations and suppress their language, their culture, and their identity in order to establish a united Russian state. For centuries, they tried to destroy Ukrainian identity, and they have failed, because now Ukrainians are united as never before. Many influential scientists like Samuel Huntington showed Ukraine as a part of Russian sphere of influence, a part of Orthodox world. But we see today in this war that Ukraine is really a part of Western civilization. So we see today that the history is repeating itself as Andrey bogolubski destroyed and looted Kyiv and put its inhabitants into slavery. Today Russians, with their fake identity, with their fake values and fake army, are trying to break and subdue Ukrainians, while doing the same thing, destroying Ukrainian cities, raping, looting, and doing other horrible stuff. So are we one nation? I don't think so. I'm Ivan Fedorych from NGO 7000. Thank you for watching and please support us.